Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to the one and only Ashlee, the Mobwife Gambino. Ashlee, what's going on?
Hey there. How are you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you for doing this. This is awesome. But how are you in Vegas? I mean, here in California, it's not what you would see in terms of the California, like sending a postcard or taking that Instagram selfie. It's cold as all heck, right? But I mean, it's California cold. It's about 50 here. So how is it where you are?
It's about the same today. The degrees were at 54 when I checked the weather earlier.
Yeah. Any snow? Any snow?
It snowed. I think it was like last week, but that's so rare. We've been here for about 4 years, and that'll be the second time it ever happened.
Whoa, my goodness. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. So, I mean, from what I understand, you're not, I mean, you and your family reside in Vegas now, but that wasn't always the case, right? So you're a Vegas transplant.
Yeah. We moved here almost 4 years ago. It'll be 4 years in May. We moved here from Ohio. We actually drove across the country to get here.
Well, almost like National Lampoon Vacation style.
It was cool. We actually took a long time to get here. It took about a month, so we took our time. We also had our daughter, who's now 5. She's turning 6 in April. She had just turned 2, so she was like freshly 2 years old on the road trip too. She actually did really good. I was proud of her.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Any sites that were seen, from Ohio to Vegas? That's a pretty crazy distance.
Yeah, it was something else. We stopped at the Muhammad Ali Museum. That was fun. That was really cool. And we stopped through the Colorado area, and I mean, we took our time. I was also fresh off of my second ACL surgery. I've had both of my knees reconstructed, and I was so fresh off of it that we had to stop like every 2 hours because my knee would be stuck bent, and I had to stretch it out in order to even walk.
Ooh,
So
that's a rough situation. And to be at close quarters, you're in your seat. I can only imagine.
yeah, well, it is what it is. It's fine now. I've got full range of motion back, and so I'm good to go.
Shout out to your surgeon because, that's a very precarious kind of position to be in. So,
Hmm.
there's a lot of things that could go wrong, and it worked out pretty well for you. So, shout out to that
Yeah,
surgeon.
I got really lucky with both of my knee surgeries. I had the best of the best in the city we were in work on my knees, and they both worked out pretty good.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So, obviously, was there kind of like a transition? Like, were you kind of just like ready to leave Ohio? I know that's where you basically built your family and came together and came to be as a person. But I mean, was it more like, oh, let me see new sights, conquer new hills and valleys type deal?
It was actually really random. My husband said, "Hey, I think we should move to Las Vegas," and I said, "Okay," and we left on faith and love, and we didn't even have enough money at the time, no plans, no nothing. But we made it here, and we made it happen, and it's working out pretty well for us so far.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Now, I mean, was your you spoke about your ACL repairs and replacements and what have you. Were you already competing in combat sports in Ohio, or was that something that happened in Vegas?
Actually, both of my knees were reconstructed in Ohio. So my first one popped when I was 6 months through rehab with that one and got pregnant with my first daughter. So I was kind of rehabbing while I was pregnant with my first daughter, and then I competed in jiu-jitsu 3 times after that. The other one, I want to say, was hanging by a thread the whole time because it just like it wasn't the same tear as like the first time, but it was the ACL and it fully tore. So even when I won my gold medal in jiu-jitsu, I had a partially ACL. So it is what it is. I made it happen though, and then I had my reconstructed, and my daughter was a champ through that too, and she was so cute, and she dealt with it. And then shortly after that, basically right when I was off for loss.
Yeah. See,
It looks like my connection's messed up. Everything I'm saying.
yeah. So the last part cut off, but I mean, I could hear you pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah, you're coming in. You're coming in great now. Can you hear me? No.
Okay. As long as it's
Yeah. No. 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 I can hear you fine. You sound swell. So you were saying. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
okay.
You're. It seemed like that other part of your ACL was almost like that Lifehouse song, and it was hanging by a moment. Was it? It was a bad joke. I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So what happened to initially got hit by a car when I was riding my bicycle. So that started the whole thing. Yeah.
Whoa.
So I'm
Whoa.
pretty sure both of us were damaged in that car. And took care of the pop and the other. I just what happened.
And it had to be traumatic. You know, get on your bike. I mean, obviously, there's the physical scars that ended up being your knee reconstructing, but I mean, that had to be emotionally kind of draining and taxing as well.
The physical scars, it is what it is. I'm not a beauty queen. I'm a warrior, so they're battle scars.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So obviously, there's a lot of things that could go on, right? And I mean, I mean, you were pretty active. You were on your bike and what have you, right? So, I mean, but were you competing at any? Well, you did jujitsu, right? Right around that time.
I didn't hear the last part of that question there.
Oh,
Can you
I
repeat
was
that
I
again?
was saying, yeah, I was saying. I mean, you're.
I have an.
I said you were essentially, competing at jujitsu right around the time of your accident, right?
Yeah, so I was getting ready for my first Muay Thai kickboxing smoker, and that's when my first knee tore, and I had to pull out of it. Um, that was heartbreaking. I actually still planned on competing in it anyways, but I was shadow boxing by myself one night, and I took a step back, and my knee collapsed, and I had no stability in it, and I just knew that I had no choice to pull out if that was going to happen. So then I went to the doctor and found out it was an ACL meniscus. Uh, I had to have a full ACL reconstruction. I got the hamstring graft. There's three different. There's a hamstring graft, a patellar bone graft, and I was scared to take the cadaver. Achilles. So an organ donor's Achilles tendon would be put into my knee as my new ACL, and I was scared that my body would reject it. So I
Yeah.
used my own hamstring. Second time I did the patellar bone graft.
Whoa. That's intense, though. Super intense. My goodness.
I
Like
mean,
that's
yeah, but there's a lot of fighters in general that have had that.
yeah, and that's the
So
thing.
what am I
It's
gonna
not
do
all.
about it? You know, it's like, oh my gosh, you've had.
Yeah, it's
What
not
am I supposed
all.
to do? Just cry about it? No, I'm gonna keep doing. I'm good at it.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, how long was the recuperation process after that?
Both of them, a little over a year.
That's, I mean, that's pretty good considering. I mean, the severity of your injuries to get it completely reconstructed. That's, I mean, you handled rehab like a champ. It seems like.
Actually did all my own rehab the second time. The first time around, I wasn't happy with the therapist and what they did. Um, I had to have two the second doing really good, and then the therapist wouldn't stop when I told him to, and like after that, it was hurting. It's just it was, um, and so when I the surgery with my other knee, anyways, I ended up doing all my own rehab. I didn't let anybody touch my knee. I also didn't forcefully bend it, which is crazy for anybody who understands the rehab for an ACL. I didn't forcefully bend it at all, and now I have full range of motion. So you live and you learn.
Now, where does that like? That's again that warrior mentality, but also that's an indelible aspect of one's spirit. So where does that come from? That's an internal strength to be like, bump the doctors. I know my body. I'm gonna do it my own way.
It's all right here and right here. It's in your heart and in your head. And if you let yourself mentally block anything, then that's it. That's it. A fight itself is 90% mental. Of course, you have
Hmm.
to be in shape and train, but it's 90% mental. You could be a warrior in the gym, and then you get up there on stage, and if you let yourself mentally break down, then you will not win that fight.
That's facts. That's facts. You know, which Nate Ran one kind of brings up a point, and I kind of know the answer to this one, but he wants to know: did you have a fight with Sheena Star? What's the thing?
No, we never did fight, unfortunately, because that'd be my first title. Maybe one day, who knows, but I doubt it. Um, it is what it is. Lady is really gullible, and she listens to the trolls online and stuff, so she has this misconception of who I am, and because of that, she talks all this trash. I feel, anyways, that's where I feel like it came from, and I don't know. I guess it would just be fun to knock her out. So maybe one day,
Yeah, well,
but no, it never did happen.
it never did happen. No, but it's kind of I think it's kind of cool, right? The fact that you ladies were able to generate that much attention, right? I mean, this was like it was a full on feud. It was highlighted in you guys both jumping on our good friend Adam Hunter's MMA Roasted podcast, and but like to get that type of kind of attention, to a feud that isn't in like UFC or Bellator. I don't even think like UFC or Bellator can kind of create that type of, you know, tension and drama to their fights. But you guys were able to do it organically, and that was like that was actually kind of cool to see that there were people that were paying attention to what you guys were doing.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure when or if it'll happen. We tried to make it happen in BKFC, and my manager thinks that she was asking for too much money. I said I was open to care what they offered me. I just it ended up not working out for whatever reason. I don't is good enough to be in Bellator, so I feel like they would sign her to fight there. Um, I honestly don't even know how she's in BKFC, to tell you the truth. I I mean, whatever. It would be when I come back, but to tell you the truth, I feel like no matter what, even if we did sign a contract, she'll lie and say she broke a toe or something to get out of it. She's scared and she knows what he did fight why it never happened.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a many a thing that can essentially have somebody signed to a particular promotion. I know she got a lot uh, of notoriety for a particular slogan that she put on a rash guard, right, on her top, right, and that got circulated, and one could argue that that might be, you know, kind of a reasoning, why one was signed, but who knows? I'm not in the KFC board of directors. They know, So just shout out to anybody that's getting signed right now because it's a tough time.
Man, I'm having a really hard time
So
hearing what you're
so
saying. I'm trying to put it together. It keeps breaking up
no
so
worries.
bad.
So
I don't understand what's
let's
going on
do
with it.
let's do this. Log out and then jump back in. Let's see if that sometimes that improves the connection.
All I heard was something about improving the connection.
Yeah. So
I
so
couldn't understand what you were saying.
so jump out and then jump back in.
And jump back in. Okay, let me see if that
Yeah.
works. I'm gonna leave it right now.
Cool. What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and yeah, there might be some technical difficulties, but we're getting that sorted out. But if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast, where you're going to get podcasts such as this with Ashlee Gambino, but there's a litany of other things. Literally, almost 300 episodes of this very podcast. Some of the luminaries are Flor Hani, who is going to be fighting I guess for LFA on February 12th. So she's in the kind of notifications list. Frank Trigg, UFC Hall of Famer, has also been on this podcast. So to it, Josh Barnett, the War Master. So again, there's a lot of podcasting here. So I warmly encourage you to go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to this very podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And I believe we have Ashlee back. How about that? Welcome back.
Okay, I hear you a little bit better working that way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we got that sorted out. But so, I mean, how does one? I mean, you're in Ohio, right? How do you get involved in combat sports? Did you watch fighting as a young adult, or like what was it that drew you into fighting?
When I first started watching it was when that first Ultimate Fighter came out. My whole family watched it, and I never watched the drama parts, but I watched the fights, and I really enjoyed watching the fights. But that's not what got me into wanting to fight. To be honest with you, it a lot longer than that. It was around 21 years old, and my husband had said something to me about doing it. He's like, "Hey, did you ever think about fighting before?" Because I guess he was watching Ronda Rousey, and it reminded him of me and my attitude. And so that day, I went to the library, and I looked into it, and then I correct. Is mine messed up now?
A little bit. We heard you went to the library, which I think is kind of fun that you went to the library to find stuff about fighting. But go ahead and do tell.
So I just looked it up. I looked up what female fighting was, and because I didn't really know much about it, and all I knew was just going and watching a couple UFC things with my husband, and then I checked out a bunch of different books on martial arts because I never in my life been athletic or had any desire to be athletic, let alone train martial arts. But then after checking out those books, including, I still have, I, I feel bad admitting this, but I never did return my jujitsu book, which was Eddie Bravo's first jujitsu book. I still have it in storage somewhere. I do kind of that. Actually, a few missions just from reading that.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot and love.
Oh, that first book was great. I mean, that is something right now. If you try to get it on eBay, it's like a couple $100, and it's just like it was it was basically part instructional, but also part biography of Eddie Bravo because there's like him in bands and stuff like that. It was just so cool. It wasn't like other instructional books at the time.
Yeah, I checked out a bunch of different ones, even one that BJ Penn had written, and I didn't know much about martial arts, so I used that to study it, and ever since then I've been practicing it physically, and I've fallen in love with it very deeply.
That's awesome. So, I mean, after reading about it and researching it, I mean, w- do you start to go ahead and seek out a gym? How does that process work?
I have basically just followed my husband and done what he's told me to do, and I've just trained. He tells me where to go and when to go there, and then I come home. I tell him what happened. He tells me what to do the next day, and it always works. So he is my main coach and my manager and my everything. He does everything for me. And every gym I've ever been to is because he's told me.
Shout out to Mr. Gambino. That's pretty cool, and to be able to kind of, I mean, who knows you better than your spouse, right?
Right, right. I feel very lucky to have the relationship I have with him. I wouldn't even be talking to you right now if it wasn't for him. To be honest with you guys, none of you would even know who I am. I'd be living somewhere in Hake Town working at us living if I never met.
That's that's awesome. That's awesome. So, I mean, you were talking about basically getting injured, preparing for a Muay Thai smoker, right? So, I mean, how do you find out the smoker and that this is going on?
So the smoker was supposed to happen at the first fight gym that I was ever accepted into, which was called Evolve. It was one of the Evolve gyms, and I had actually went to their fighter tryout a month after I got hit by the car. So like I wasn't 100%, but try and they took me in. Um, and so then I had signed up for their Muay Thai kickboxing smoker that was in house, and I had an opponent set and everything. And as I was training for it, is when my knee popped. So, like, my knees had been hurting that whole time, anyways. And then I was specifically doing this drill where my coach at the time, he wanted me to push. He wanted me to push off of, and my has forever been corrected because of it. because of the way that my stance was. When I pushed off, my knee was at an angle that it finally just gave up. And when it popped, it echoed through the whole. It was crazy. It was the craziest thing I've ever been through. I was in denial. I was just like, "Oh, my knee just popped. I'm still gonna compete." But then, when it collapsed on me while I was shadowboxing, I knew something was seriously wrong, and I had to get it fixed and looked at. And
Wow,
and I
that's
say I know. hmm I know the second one was messed up because it was always hurting. So I know that while I was competing in jujitsu, it was hanging by a thread. It was partially torn. I know for a fact because I mean, it never stopped hurting. A, and B, when it tore, it was compared to the first one. I didn't hear it. I barely felt it. I felt a little pop, and I was like, at that time, I was also in denial. I was like, it's a meniscus because I didn't hear it pop like the other one. I barely felt it, but like I knew in my heart it was my ACL. And when I went and got it checked, it was the ACL.
wow. But again, that's being in tune with your body that you know that I might be out of position. This may be serious.
Yeah, I knew that time I had to get it checked because I'd already been through it around round once, and I mean it is what it is. I also know that I can compete on a partially torn ACL, so if it comes down to it, and I have a big pro fight sign, and I know that my ACL is partially torn, I will still be competing because I know that I can.
Yeah, I mean that's what you learn, right? You learn about yourself and what you can endure versus not, and that's huge. Knowing what your limits and capabilities are.
Absolutely. Everybody's different too. It's not like I would suggest for somebody to randomly feel like that like they should be toughing out and fight in a pro fight or something like that. Fights in general are dangerous. So if you're injured, by all means, get it taken care of. Everybody's a little different, you know.
No, 1,000%. So, I mean, were you at that time? Were you doing both Muay Thai and Jiu Jitsu, or just kind of structured in Muay Thai? I mean, what was the thing?
The Muay Thai kickboxing smoker was very random. It was the very first thing I was ever going to compete in when it came to martial arts. Excuse me. And then when I
Really?
came back, yeah, it was so random. It's not like I had been well versed in Muay Thai. I was just going to do it because it was fun and I wanted to compete and fight. And so when I came back, I have always just been so in love with jujitsu. So that ended up being what I competed in. I competed in jujitsu after my first pregnancy and rehabbing from that first knee surgery. And I also felt like that showed me that I could come back because jujitsu is something that you need to all of your joints live in any way, shape, or form. And the fact that I was able to compete in jujitsu after a knee surgery gave me a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I could only imagine. But were you doing both gi or no gi, or one or the other?
The first one I did was actually catch wrestling, which was funny because I didn't know anything about wrestling.
Really?
But it was fun. Yeah. So I've been wanting to practice wrestling a lot more after that. The second one was an AJC. It was actually the 10-year anniversary. It was in Ohio. And I competed in both gi and no gi, which is also funny because for the build up for that one, I didn't train in the gi at all. so, so I got like tossed with one of the gi tosses, and I had no idea what was coming. I just basically knew some no gi techniques that I was bringing into it. I was just doing it and then I won the gold medal in the no gi division.
That's absolutely brilliant. That's cool, and even the catch wrestling, which I don't think gets enough love, in terms of the kind of auspices in MMA. But you look at Sakuraba, you look at Shayna Baszler, you look at Josh Barnett, and a litany of other, Eric Paulson and Ben Jones and the rest of the CSW crew. There's Kelly Anderson out in Vegas, who's a catch wrestling, a snake pit affiliate, and catch wrestling has probably never been more alive now than it has. I mean, maybe in 100 years here in North America.
Yeah, it's highly underestimated and overlooked in my opinion. I am falling in love with wrestling so much, and for some reason, every time I compete against females, I end up like, if I'm able to, if you're allowed to, I end up pushing them up against cage or all. So I'm like wanting to focus my skills more in on that position so that I can get them down to the floor and exploit my jujitsu in that situation.
Yeah, no, 100%. And even like the subtle differences. I have one of my friends, Mark Tilius, who's an author, but also uh, he's a part of the 10th Planet crew, right? And he entered a catch wrestling tournament, and he was just like, "Whoa, like, we're usually, fighting off of our backs, and essentially in catch wrestling, that's a pin. You could lose a match if you're on your back for too long, So
Yeah, and for MMA in particular, my ultimate goal is to become an MMA world champion. So my focus when I train martial arts is around MMA in general. So yes, I've competed in pro boxing and I love it, and I'll probably do it again. I love boxing. Uh, Surgeries have forced me to love boxing because I use them to rehab my knees. That's what I used. Um, but MMA is where my heart and soul lies. I want to be a world champion in MMA. I want to be the best of the best. And you cannot be on your back in MMA. It's very dangerous. Now, granted,
yes.
there's a lot of tools that you can use on your back in order to finish a fight in MMA, and there's no reason not to sharpen those. But when it comes to my training, my ultimate goal, in general, is to be on top because that's where you want to be dominant.
No, 1,000%. I couldn't have articulated it any better. That's it. So I mean, you're in Vegas, right? So aside from Southern California, you couldn't find I mean, you're literally in the fight capital of the world, right? So how has that been for you in terms of your
Right?
evolution? You know, as a mixed martial artist.
So far, I have been around to a few different gyms since I've been here. Uh, I've also had a baby since I've been here. Right after I debuted in MMA, I got pregnant with Katana. She's going to turn 2 next month. So I've been taking breaks in my training. But gyms that I've been to have been fantastic. Everybody's comfortable and high level, which is what I need to challenge me, get me to the level that I need to be to accomplish the goals I have.
Yeah, no, I mean top level competition and training is what gets you, the top level fights.
Not saying anything bad about the Ohio training either. Like, for
Right.
example, when I was training with Manchek, he is good at jujitsu, and I expressed to him, he was the first class I went to after I had my first ACL surgery, and I expressed that the leg locks and stuff was my biggest fear.
Yeah.
So he said, "Okay, we're gonna erase that then." And even though you're not technically supposed to teach white belts leg locks, he had dedicated Wednesdays at the time I was training there, anyways, to leg lock days. And so I started learning leg locks no longer scared of him. He's very good at them. And he taught me so well that even in that first competition I went to for the jiu-jitsu, I like the very end of my match, right? And I was like just going after an ankle lock, like just purely out of muscle memory. I didn't even think about it. And then the match ended, so I missed it. So I didn't get it. But it's okay.
It happens. It happens. That's kind of the name of the game. And
It's all
again, you were talking about Ohio MMA. Look no further than the UFC heavyweight champion, Stipe Miocic, who trains in Ohio and has lived there his entire life. So yeah, shout out to Ohio MMA. And that's kind of crazy. Everywhere, right? Ohio, Idaho, Thailand, whatever. There's top level MMA competitors being raised everywhere. And it's so cool to see. And it just shows the evolution of the sport. And I'm sure as an athlete such as yourself, you want to test your mettle up against, different people from different places.
right. And I welcome the competition from literally anywhere. I'm super excited to continue in my journey in martial arts. And you're right, people are growing up doing it. For example, my 5-year-old daughter, she knows how to block straights and hooks. She knows how to properly choke me out. She knows how to throw up an arm bar. She knows how to take me down and take your hips out from underneath you. She's only 5. She's learning a lot. She's actually getting pretty good at kicks too. So these kids are growing up learning, and it's a crazy dynamic to see what's in the martial arts world, the future.
No, 1,000%, 1,000%. Now, one of the cool things about you and your journey, especially in MMA, is also, I mean, what you do on Fremont Street. You kind of, I've seen some cool photos of you kind of like show, administering submissions to folk and all that. So how did that come about? Because my dad was a street performer. Like this is one of his tapes here. So I'm always fascinated by people who earn a part of their living, essentially entertaining tourists and such, right? So how did that come about? Because in a world I grew up with, like what they call buskers, right, or street performers. I've never seen your act before, where you're a fighter, a female fighter, and you're doing your thing. So how did that come about?
So, first of all, let me clarify. At the time, I was not a pro. I won't be going out again now that I'm a pro. That's so not fair. But I was very skilled at what I did, and that's why I was able to do it. My husband also initiated that. He went out to Fremont when we and doing their thing in the circles they provide for the street performers on Fremont Street. And he thought that it would be a good idea for me to go out and shadow box for people. He thought they would like it. And they did to an extent. And then we were like, well, we got to make it better, right? So we brainstormed and we're like, let's shadow box against these people. And that became so fun. It became so big. And I actually started drawing these crazy crowds. And like the security was telling me they could hear my crowd chanting from all the way at the other end of the street, which is insane. And it was fun for me. I learned so much. I met a lot of people. A lot of real fighters came up to me and really worked with me. I got a lot of great training out there too. And yeah, I met Dana White. Like I met a lot of people out there, and it was really fun. And eventually, I had to stop because security came up to me, and there was 2 situations. There's 2 reasons. So the name of the game was not okay. We were supposed to shadow box against each other, but more often than not, it's real. So there was this one guy, and a lot of men would come up with dominance issues or whatever their problem is, drunk, I don't know, and they would try and like just hit me. So I would hit him back, right? I'd be like, hey, just because I'm not hitting you doesn't mean I can't, like don't do that again. And this one guy, I accidentally knocked his contact into the back of his eye, I guess, and he had to go to the hospital and get it removed. So he's sued Fremont for that. And
Really?
that was initially like what was gonna, yeah. So initially that was what was gonna get them to make them tell me to stop. But the night before they even came to tell me, there was another guy, right? And he was like, I don't know, he's trying to be a macho man, and he hit me really hard, right? So I hit him with a pretty hard combination, and then I made him stop. I said, listen, we're not doing this. We're not going to fight on my street. That's not what this is about. And you can leave now. But apparently, apparently when I hit him with that combination, I hit him to a point where he was leaking really bad. Like nose was leaking so bad that he needed help from security in the casino that was next to us. And like I knew he was leaking a little bit, but I didn't know he was leaking that bad. And until he told me. So that was the cherry topper, and I was no longer allowed to do it, or Fremont said they would sue me for it. So I quit the shadowboxing thing anyways. And at that point, I was only taking pictures of people and trying to entertain them and make them laugh, and trying to use the opportunity to develop my entertainment skills, because I know that's also very important in the fight world and to reach the accomplishments that I have goals of reaching.
No, 100%. And again, like, to create something that people hadn't seen before, right? Again, my dad was a street performer in San Francisco in front of Fisherman's Wharf, and the storied history of Fremont Street being allowing performers of all kinds to be there, and you're the first. You're a pioneer, But I think it's absolutely cool because I mean, you were talking about Dana White. Dana White has famously recently said, being a part of the UFC, it's not a career. It's it's essentially I forgot the euphemism that he used, but it's an opportunity, right? So sometimes, especially as a professional fighter, you're
Right.
not you're not going to basically get all of your money from the promotion itself.
Yeah, as a pro fighter, you can't get all your money just from the fights. You have to branch out in other forms. Um, Entertainment is a major part of the industry, and if you can't cater that, then you're just simply not going to be able to be the best that you could be.
No, absolutely. Now, I loved how you pivoted. Obviously, that was all kind of sketchy business with the two. I use this loosely, but gentlemen that approached you. But you said that you kind of pivoted into kind of telling jokes and stories to entertain them of a different ilk, right? So, um, what did you was it a joke type thing, I don't know if you could share some of that.
Hold on, we're breaking up again. Okay, say that question one more time, please.
Yeah, I was saying, do you have a memory of like a joke that you might have told when you pivoted from actually shadow boxing to maybe telling a joke or taking a picture? Do you have any fun interactions from that?
Oh, oh my gosh, I could go on for days. You would not believe all the things that happened on Fremont while I was out there. I met so many people and had so many experiences. I actually met a lot of really great fighters, and it was really cool because they would come to me and they would share their experiences, even with champion boxers. At the time, there was this one guy that up to me. His name's Nico. He was a silver medalist in Olympic boxing, and I didn't know it. But I was like, yes, please take the gloves. Like I wanted anybody to shadow box me. I wanted the experience. I wanted to have fun. Just anything like that. And he was did really good, and I held my own, and stuff like that with me that I'm better than I think, and I really need to have confidence and keep sharpening my skills because there's a lot of good stuff that I can do with them. Um, There was another situation, and this one's kind of funny. This one's actually really funny. You guys might enjoy this. So it was actually kind of a slow night for me, and I seen this guy walk by. I'm like, please take the gloves. Because while I was still shadow boxing, right? And he's like, oh, you don't want me to take the gloves. You don't want me to take the gloves. I said, yes, I do. Please take them. You don't understand it. Just take the gloves. I'm not trying to really fight you. I just want to have fun. And it turned. He puts his hands on my shoulders. Like, do you know who I am? And like, I felt bad at the time. No, I don't. Like, well, then you might know my girlfriend. Oh, well, I don't sound stupid, but are you Brian Caraway? He said, yes, Brian Caraway. So it turns
Whoa.
out I was trying to get Brian Caraway to take the gloves. And I still wish he would have, because he would have seen that I'm way better than he thought I was. He probably thought I was just some dumb girl out there, you know? He didn't know, like, I was a real fighter. And I was selfie with him. And, I posted it up, of course, I saw Brian Caraway tonight. And because of that selfie, I don't know why. It's just a picture, but Misha take Instagram for it.
Really?
So like, yeah, it was. I don't know why, but whatever. And it was right after you. Yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
mean,
He was telling me it was before it was like public and everything. He told me how they had broke up from a 10-year relationship, and I
yeah.
felt bad for him because I'd been with my own husband for 10 years. I'm like, man, that's crazy. Like that's a crazy relationship, like an amount of time to break up with somebody with. And I felt really bad. And I told him just to keep his head up, and everything happens for a reason, whatever it may be. And then we had taken a selfie and ended up blocking Instagram for it for a reason. Like, okay then.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. It happens, and you never know what's going on or what have you. So, I mean, how could you've known, right?
Well, I mean, I'm not really into, like, first of all, I'm not into pop culture. I'm also not really as deep into the fight world and as knowledgeable as my husband. I
Mhm.
know a lot about fighting itself. So he will recognize these people way before I will. And sometimes I feel bad because there's a lot of people that I've met out there that felt like I should have recognized them and I didn't.
Yeah.
So like, for all I know, I met like a lot more celebrities. But I'm not really into that stuff. Train and fight, you know?
Yeah, you can only focus on what you can focus on, and it's brought you a zest for life that not fighting would have not given you. So it, it's like I think you took the best path that you felt good for. Yeah, and Nate
Oh my
Rand saying
goodness.
hi.
It's breaking up again. I couldn't hear the last half of what you said.
No, I was saying, you chose the path that you're meant to be on,
Hey there.
so it worked. Absolutely. And Libby Canella saying, "Hey, Adam Woods," and "Hey, uh, Ashley." So, hey, Libby Canella, and Libby has a event coming on, Fearless Women MMA 7, coming to you in March. So, shout out to that. Keep up with Fearless Women MMA on all of their social medias to find out what is going on with them. It's going to be good. And somebody that you may know, one Mr. Trap Gambino says, "Who's this sexy chick?" Great interview. More Ashley than me. So, Trap Gambino, there you go. Shout out to you, good sir. And Gordon Aller, he's saying that I got to watch Ashley at Tough Enough. Pack the Mac show. Great fight. Shout out to Gordon Aller. Miss you, buddy. You're good?
Okay. It like it broke up and then caught up to the end, so I'm not sure if you asked me a question.
No. Gordon Howler was just saying that he got to see you at the Tough Enough Back the Mac show. Shout out to Tough Enough, a great organization out there in Vegas. And he got to see you do your thing at the Back the Mac show. So shout out.
Thank you. And you know what? I will be a completely different person next time you guys see me fight in MMA. Even since I fought in boxing, I am totally different person. Evolve and grow every single day, and as a mom, is continue to grow and inspire no matter what.
I think that's brilliant. The evolution of oneself, which I gotta ask, right? I mean, there have been so many people that have contributed to not just you as a fighter, but you as a person. So let's get some shout outs out of the way. Ash.
So first and foremost, I have to thank my husband. He has done anything and everything that you can possibly think of in the world for me. He is my everything, and I wouldn't be here without him. There's a lot of people in my corner. I have a lot of love and a lot of fans, and I love you all very much. And anytime I ever get any type of encouraging messages from you or support of anything, it means so much more than you could possibly know. So thank you. Thank you to anybody and everybody who's ever supported me. I appreciate it, and I will always work hard to continue to inspire you and entertain you in any way.
That's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Now, Ashley, where can people find you on social media?
If you want to catch me on social media, go and check out my Instagram at the Mobwife. Super simple, easy to remember, and once you start following me, you won't want to stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. But I think there couldn't be a better way to stop this here. But Ashley, thank you so much for joining us here at According to Woods. Thank you guys for joining us here at According to Woods. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Yes, we're on Twitch, but don't just take my word for it. Here's Pro Wrestler Zeta Zhang.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe